All right, so you're gearing up for an import-export manager interview, specifically in the chemical products industry.
Talk about a high-stakes game, right?
Definitely high stakes, but don't sweat it.
Or diving deep into RoleCatcher's guides. Gonna equip you with that extra edge.
Yeah, think of it like your cheat sheet to not just nail those questions, but really grasp what this career path's all about.
You know what's really cool about this role?
What's that?
It's so much more than just moving those chemicals around from point A to point B.
Right, it's a whole other ballgame.
Exactly. You're navigating this intricate web of, like, international regulations.
Oh, absolutely, and
Yeah.
building those relationships across different continents even.
Yeah, and even thinking about the environmental impact.
The ripple effects, huh?
For sure.
So let's jump right into some potential interview questions, the kind that can really make you stand out. Imagine you're sitting across from the hiring manager,
Okay. I'm picturing it.
and they hit you with this. How did you become interested in import-export management? Now,
Ooh, that's a good one.
it might seem basic at first glance, but it's
Yeah.
your golden opportunity to showcase your passion, tell your story.
Right, and it's so important to avoid just giving them a generic cookie-cutter answer.
Totally, because everyone says, I've always been interested in international business.
Exactly. So instead, dig a little deeper,
Personal.
Yeah, was there a specific moment or experience that sparked that interest? Maybe a course you took in college or a mentor who, like, really inspired you?
Yeah, or even a personal connection you have to the chemical industry.
Ooh, that's a good angle.
And remember, this is your chance to flaunt your knowledge
Oh,
about the field
show them what you know.
if you've done some research on the company.
Yeah, or the specific role you're going for.
Weave that in, make it relevant.
Ooh, I like that.
For example, you could say something like, I was drawn to this role because of your company's emphasis on, let's say, sustainable sourcing.
Nice.
I've always been really passionate about the environmental impact of the chemical industry.
Mm.
And I see this role as an opportunity to, make a tangible difference.
I love that. That's such a strong way to tailor your answer to the specific opportunity.
Yeah, make it count.
And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can be super helpful.
Oh, tell me more about that.
So you can actually plug in the job description and your draft answer, and the AI will analyze it.
No way.
Yeah, and see if you're hitting those key words.
What?
And if you're highlighting the skills that really matter to the employer.
Wow, it's like having a personalized coach giving you feedback, suggesting tweaks.
Exactly.
Now, let's say the interviewer follows up with something like, what are some challenges you anticipate in this role,
Okay.
and how would you overcome them? Now, this is where you can really flex your understanding of the industry.
Yes. And show off those problem-solving skills.
So think about those nitty-gritty challenges specific to import-export management.
Like in the chemical sector, right?
Yeah, like stringent regulations.
Oh, definitely. And those complex logistics, potential risks with hazardous materials.
Yeah, it's a lot to juggle.
It is.
You could even mention the importance of staying updated on the latest regulation.
Oh, crucial. Those things are always changing.
And then building those strong relationships with your suppliers.
Yes. Got to have that trust.
And having solid contingency plans, just in case something goes sideways.
Always be prepared.
And don't forget to sprinkle in those concrete examples of how you've tackled similar challenges in your past roles.
Love that. Give them evidence.
Yeah, maybe you had to, sort out a shipment delay or navigate a tricky customs issue or even negotiate with a difficult supplier.
Mm-hmm. Show them you've been there, done that.
Exactly. The more specific you are, the more believable you sound.
Totally agree.
And remember, the interviewer isn't just looking for someone who knows the right answers.
He's more than that.
They're looking for someone who can, think on their feet, come up with solutions.
Yeah, someone who can handle the unexpected.
Right. So don't shy away from walking them through your thought process. Show off those problem-solving skills.
That's great advice.
Okay, let's move on to a question that's all about your technical know-how.
Okay, I'm ready.
Picture this. The interviewer asks, what are Incoterms, and how do they affect import-export operations?
Oh, Incoterms. That's a big one.
Now, this might seem like a little technical detail, but it's a core concept that really demonstrates you understand the world of international trade.
Absolutely. It's foundational.
So what are Incoterms?
Well, in a nutshell, they're a set of internationally recognized trade terms
Okay,
that define the responsibilities of the buyer and seller
got it.
in an international transaction.
Makes sense.
They cover things like who's responsible for transportation costs, insurance, and customs clearance.
Ah, so it really spells it all out.
Yeah, for example, if a contract specifies CIF, which stands for cost, insurance, and freight,
Okay.
it means that the seller is responsible for those costs, the insurance, and the freight, all the way until those goods reach the port of destination.
So it's super specific.
It is, and it's important.
And understanding these Incoterms, it's crucial for an import-export manager.
Oh, absolutely. It affects
It
everything.
really does. It impacts pricing, risk management.
The logistics, documentation, you name it.
You need to know how to choose the right Incoterm for each transaction and make sure both parties are clear on what they're responsible for.
It's all about clarity and avoiding those misunderstandings down the line.
And to really wow the interviewer,
Give him that extra oomph.
you could provide a specific example of how different Incoterms would play out in a real-world import-export scenario.
Okay, like a case study.
Yeah, exactly. You could say, let's say in a recent project, we were importing a chemical from China.
Got it.
We initially thought about using the FOB Incoterm, which is free on board.
Yeah, I know that one.
That would meant the buyer was on the hook for transportation costs and insurance once the goods were loaded onto the ship.
Right.
But ultimately, we decided to go with CIF
Interesting. Why the switch?
because it gave us more control over the whole shipping process, and we could negotiate better rates with our freight forwarder.
Smart move.
So you're demonstrating your practical understanding of Incoterms.
And how they can make or break a deal in real life.
Exactly. Now let's say the interviewer throws you a curveball, a question that tests your knowledge of a specific regulation.
Okay, bring on the challenge.
Imagine they ask, how familiar are you with ReachF regulations? And how would you ensure compliance in this role? Now, REACH is a complex beast.
It's a big one, yeah.
Governs the registration, evaluation, authorization, and restriction of chemicals in the European Union.
Definitely a mouthful.
It is. But this is your time to shine. Show them you're an expert in this particular area of import-export regulation.
All right, time to impress.
So you want to lay out the core purpose of REACH, which is basically to protect human health and the environment from the risks posed by these chemicals.
Right, safety first.
Exactly. You can even mention that REACH requires companies to register the chemicals they manufacture, import, or use.
Ah, so it's about transparency and accountability.
Precisely. And you have to provide all that information about their properties, potential hazards, the whole 9 yards.
Got it. So it's all about knowing your stuff.
And to really bring it home, you could talk about the concrete steps you would take to ensure compliance with REACH in your import-export operations.
Okay, like what specifically?
Well, it might involve things like working closely with your suppliers to get all those necessary registration documents,
Makes sense.
conducting risk assessments,
Uh-huh.
implementing safety data sheet management procedures, the whole shebang.
So you're showing them you know how to walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Precisely. And don't forget, REACH regulations are always evolving.
Oh, yeah, gotta stay ahead of the curve.
So you could mention how you stay up to date, maybe you consult industry resources, attend those webinars, or even participate in professional development courses.
Always be learning, right?
Now, let's shift gears to a question that's all about your people skills.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Imagine the interviewer says, how do you build and maintain strong relationships with international suppliers and customers? This is where you flaunt those communication skills,
Oh, the human element.
your cultural sensitivity, your ability to build trust across borders.
It's all about connection, isn't it?
It really is. And you want to highlight that building strong relationships in international business, it goes way beyond just transactions.
Right, it's not just about signing on the dotted line.
It's about cultivating that mutual trust, understanding cultural nuances.
Mm-hmm. Respecting different ways of doing business.
Exactly. And you could mention the importance of clear and consistent communication,
Open dialogue.
active listening, being responsive to their needs and concerns.
Showing them you care.
And don't forget about cultural awareness,
Oh, that's huge.
being mindful of different communication styles, etiquette, those business practices that vary from country to country.
Right, it's about adapting and understanding those subtle differences.
And sprinkle in some real-life examples of how you've successfully built and maintained international relationships in the past.
Give them proof you can walk the walk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe you had to overcome a language barrier, navigate a cultural misunderstanding, or even resolve a conflict with a supplier or customer.
Show them you've got the experience and the skills to handle those delicate situations.
Now, let's say the interviewer throws in a question about risk management.
Okay, let's get strategic.
They could ask, how do you identify and mitigate potential risks in international trade? particularly when you're dealing with chemical products.
That's where your expertise really shines through.
This is your chance to show off your strategic thinking, your ability to see those potential roadblocks and address them head on.
Anticipate and navigate.
So think about all the different risks in international trade. Supply chain disruptions, payment issues, political instability, natural disasters, regulatory changes, the whole gamut.
It's a lot to consider for sure.
It is. And you could talk about the importance of doing that thorough due diligence on any potential partners.
Right. Know who you're working with.
Diversifying your sourcing strategy.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Having those contingency plans in place, just in case something throws you a curveball.
Always be prepared.
And when it comes to chemical products specifically,
Okay, let's get specific.
you want to mention the importance of understanding those regulations that govern the transportation of hazardous materials.
Right. Safety is paramount.
Ensuring proper labeling and packaging,
Dotting your I's and crossing your T's.
and working with reputable logistics providers who have a proven track record.
You don't want any surprises there.
Now, before we wrap up this first part of our deep dive,
Okay, I'm ready for more.
let's take a quick peek at how RoleCatcher can help you tailor those answers and really stand out from the competition.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about RoleCatcher.
So their AI-powered platform,
It's a game changer.
it is. Not only does it provide a library of sample interview questions and answers,
It's like having a cheat sheet.
it actually analyzes your responses and gives you personalized feedback based on the specific job you're going for.
No way. That's amazing.
It is. You can upload the job description, your draft answers, and the AI will pinpoint areas for improvement, suggest relevant keywords, and highlight the skills and experience that truly matter to the employer.
It's like having a personal career coach in your pocket.
It's like having a secret weapon in your arsenal.
I love it.
So there you have it. We've laid the groundwork.
Feeling more prepared already.
Remember, the chemical import-export world, it's complex, it's demanding. But with the right prep, you can not only rock that interview, but launch a successful and fulfilling career.
And don't forget, RoleCatcher's there every step of the way.
Exactly. They've got your back. Now get out there and conquer that interview.
You got this. Welcome back to our deep dive. We're prepping you for that import-export manager interview in the chemical industry. And remember, we're using RoleCatcher's guides to help you nail it.
Yeah. Last time we tackled some tough questions about regulations, Incoterms.
Even some conflict resolution scenarios.
Now let's shift gears a bit
Okay, I'm intrigued.
to a question that can really throw you off if you're not prepared.
All right, lay it on me.
What are your salary expectations for this role?
Yes, the dreaded salary question.
You feel a little awkward, right?
It definitely can.
But it's actually your chance to show that you've done your research.
And that you know your worth.
Exactly. Don't just throw out a number.
Yeah, that's never a good look.
Do your homework beforehand using resources like RoleCatcher or even sites like Glassdoor.
Research is key.
Think about factors like your experience level,
Responsibilities of the role,
the location even.
and even the company's size and standing in the industry.
RoleCatcher's guide even mentions how important it is to factor in those potential benefits packages.
Oh, yeah, those benefits can be a game changer.
Right, because benefits can really impact your overall compensation, right?
Absolutely. Things like health insurance,
Retirement plans,
stock options.
all that adds up.
And here's where RoleCatcher's AI can give you a real leg up. Their platform lets you input those specific details about the role and location.
Get granular.
Yeah, and their AI will actually generate a personalized salary range.
That's awesome. Based on current market data.
No more guessing games.
It gives you a solid foundation for that conversation.
It takes away so much stress.
Now let's move on to a question that really digs into your grasp of international trade.
Okay, hit me.
Imagine the interviewer asks, what are some of the key trade agreements that affect the import and export of chemical products, and how do they impact your work?
This is where you get to show off your global trade knowledge.
This question is testing you to see if you understand the big picture.
You'll want to mention key agreements like the World Trade Organization agreements, the WTO.
Big players
Yeah, they establish the rules for global trade.
setting the standards.
You can also mention specific free trade agreements, the FTAs, between certain countries.
Like if the company operates in North America,
You could talk about the impact of the USMCA.
which is the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement.
Exactly, but don't just list the agreements.
Right. Show how they actually affect your work as an import-export manager.
Give them concrete examples.
You could say something like, the USMCA, it streamlined customs procedures for chemical products traded between the US, Mexico, and Canada.
Yeah, And what impact did that have?
which has really helped cut down those lead times and transportation costs for our company.
Perfect. You're connecting your knowledge to real-world results.
The interviewer wants to see that you understand how those trade agreements play out in your day-to-day operations.
It's about showing that practical understanding.
Okay, now let's shift gears again to a question that's all about handling pressure.
Okay, I'm ready for the heat.
Describe a time when you had to deal with a major disruption in the supply chain for imported chemical products. How did you identify the problem, assess the impact, and implement solutions?
Oh boy, the dreaded supply chain disruption.
This is where you shine, showing how you stay calm and think on your feet.
You got to be adaptable in this industry.
Choose a specific example from your past where you faced a major challenge,
Okay, thinking back.
maybe a natural disaster,
A port strike.
or even a sudden regulatory change.
Anything can happen.
Walk the interviewer through your problem-solving process.
Okay, step by step.
How did you gather the information? Who did you communicate with? What alternative solutions did you explore?
Show them you took charge.
Don't dwell on the problem. Highlight the actions you took and the positive outcome you achieved.
I like it.
For example, you could say something like, when a volcanic eruption disrupted air freight routes.
Oh, wow, that's a curveball.
I quickly assessed the impact on our chemical shipments. I immediately reached out to our suppliers to see if we had any alternative shipping options, renegotiated delivery timelines with our customers, and I made sure all stakeholders were in the loop throughout the entire process.
Transparency is key.
By acting quickly and decisively, we minimized the disruption and kept our customers happy.
That's a great example. It shows you're proactive and resourceful.
You can handle those unexpected challenges.
Crisis management skills are gold.
And speaking of challenges, let's tackle a question specific to the chemical industry.
All right, bring it on.
What are some of the key quality control measures you implement when importing chemical products? And how do you ensure that those measures are actually effective?
Quality control, that's the heart of this industry.
It's essential, right? Even small variations can have huge consequences.
Absolutely no room for error.
This is where you show off your knowledge of industry standards and your commitment to making sure those imported chemicals are top-notch.
You want to reassure them that you're all about quality.
You can mention specific measures you've implemented, like pre-shipment inspections, laboratory testing,
Regular audits of suppliers.
but don't just list them.
Right, explain that.
How do you track data? How do you analyze trends? How do you continuously improve those quality control processes?
Show them your system.
You could say, in my previous role, we implemented a rigorous quality control system that included pre-shipment inspections by independent third-party inspectors. We did random sampling and laboratory analysis when shipments arrived, and we had regular audits of our suppliers' facilities.
That's comprehensive.
This helped us spot and tackle potential quality issues early on and made sure all those imported chemicals met our strict standards.
You're showing them you're proactive and detail-oriented.
And speaking of expertise, let's circle back to how RoleCatcher's AI can help you prep for these technical questions.
RoleCatcher is a goldmine of information for anyone in import-export.
It really is. They have in-depth guides on all sorts of topics, including quality control procedures, safety regulations,
Industry best practices, the whole shebang.
You can use these resources to refresh your knowledge and make sure you're up to date on the latest developments.
Stay ahead of the curve.
And don't forget, their AI can help you practice your answers to those technical questions.
Oh, that's right.
You input your responses and get feedback on your accuracy, your clarity.
And whether it's relevant to the job you're going for.
It's like having a team of experts in your back pocket.
Always there to help.
All right, ready for another round of questions?
Hit me.
Let's focus on those that dive deep into your understanding of the chemical industry.
Okay, get specific.
Imagine the interviewer asks, what are some of the key regulations governing the import and export of chemical products? And how do you ensure compliance?
All right, time to showcase that regulatory knowledge.
This is where you demonstrate your deep understanding of the regulatory landscape. You could mention regulations like REACH in the European Union, TSCA in the United States.
And of course, the globally harmonized system, GHS, for classification and labeling.
Don't just rattle off names, though.
Right, bring it to life.
Explain how these regulations actually impact import and export operations.
Show them, how it works in practice.
You could talk about your experience with SDS management, making sure labeling and packaging is on point.
Working with customs brokers to navigate those complex documentation requirements?
Yeah, it can get pretty tricky. And to really stand out,
Go the extra mile.
you could mention how you stay updated on any regulatory changes, Maybe you subscribe to industry newsletters, attend webinars.
Participate in professional development courses.
Show that you're committed to staying current.
Always learning.
Okay, now let's say the interviewer follows up with a question that tests your understanding of risk management in the chemical industry.
All right, let's get strategic.
You might ask, what are some of the potential risks associated with importing and exporting chemical products? And how do you mitigate them?
This is where you show off your proactive approach to risk management.
Think about potential risks like supply chain disruptions,
Quality control issues,
transportation accidents,
environmental hazards.
even political instability in those sourcing countries.
There's a volatile world out there.
When it comes to mitigating those risks, you could talk about diversifying your sourcing,
Building redundancies into your logistics network.
developing strong relationships with your key suppliers.
And using technology to improve visibility and tracking.
Stay on top of it.
You could also mention the importance of having those contingency plans in place, just in case.
Always be prepared.
So, like identifying alternative suppliers,
Rerouting shipment.
adjusting production schedules, whatever it takes.
And to really demonstrate your chemical industry know-how, you could mention the importance of understanding the properties of those different chemicals.
Right. Not all chemicals are created equal.
The regulations for transportation and storage,
Safety first.
and the potential environmental impacts of their use.
Got to be mindful of the bigger picture.
Now let's shift gears to a question that's all about your ability to build and maintain strong relationships with those key stakeholders.
Okay, the human element again.
Imagine the interviewer asks, how do you manage relationships with freight forwarders, customs brokers, other third-party logistics providers,
This is where you showcase those communication skills, your ability to negotiate effectively.
and your understanding of building strong partnerships with those who are crucial to the import-export process?
Teamwork makes the dream work.
You could talk about the importance of clear and regular communication, setting clear expectations from the get-go.
Being responsive to their needs and concerns.
You could also mention building trust through transparency, honesty.
And that willingness to collaborate to find solutions that work for everyone.
Win-win situations.
Exactly. And don't forget to give specific examples of how you've successfully managed these relationships in the past.
Real-world examples, always a good idea.
Maybe you negotiated a better rate with a freight forwarder, resolved a customs issue with a broker.
Or maybe you had to come up with a creative solution to a logistical nightmare.
Show them you can handle the tough stuff.
Now, let's say the interviewer throws you a curveball with a question about your technical knowledge of specific chemical products.
Okay, let's get technical.
Imagine they ask, what are the key considerations when importing and exporting hazardous chemicals?
Safety first. This is where you really demonstrate your expertise in handling sensitive materials.
And your commitment to safety and compliance.
Absolutely. It's all about following the rules.
You need to highlight your understanding of the regulations governing the transportation and handling of hazardous chemicals.
Right. Things like the International Maritime Dangerous Goods Code, the IMDG code for sea transport.
Or the IATA Dangerous Goods Regulations for air transport.
There are specific rules for a reason.
You could also discuss the importance of proper packaging and labeling, using the right containers, securing all the necessary permits.
And having those emergency response plans just in case.
Never hurts to be prepared.
And to really impress them, you could talk about your company's dedication to safety and environmental responsibility.
How you go the extra mile to minimize risks and ensure those hazardous materials are handled safely and ethically.
It's about doing the right thing, always.
Now let's imagine the interviewer wants to dig into your problem-solving skills with a specific import-export scenario.
Okay, give me a challenge.
They might say, describe a time when you had to deal with a shipment delay that threatened to disrupt your company's operations. How did you approach the situation, and what was the outcome?
A classic behavioral question. They want to see how you handle pressure.
This is your chance to show them how you think critically and find creative solutions.
Logistical puzzles, I love them.
When answering this type of question, pick a specific example that highlights your problem-solving process
Give them the play-by-play.
and how you communicate effectively with all those different stakeholders.
Keep everyone informed.
You could talk about how you identified the root cause of the delay, explored those alternative shipping options,
Negotiated with suppliers or customers.
kept everyone informed,
Transparency is key.
and don't forget to emphasize the positive outcome. How did you minimize the impact? Preserve those customer relationships. Maybe even save some costs by finding a more efficient solution.
Show them how you turned a challenge into a success story.
Exactly. Remember, the interviewer isn't just interested in what happened. They want to understand your thought process.
How you got from point A to point B.
Walk them through your actions. Explain your reasoning. Highlight those skills you use to achieve a positive resolution.
Demonstrate your problem-solving prowess.
Okay, before we wrap up this second part of our deep dive, let's revisit how RoleCatcher can help you prepare for these behavioral questions.
RoleCatcher's AI is like a personal interview coach.
It really is. It gives you a library of common behavioral questions,
Sample answers.
tips on structuring your responses,
And you can even input your own answers and get feedback from the AI
personalized feedback,
to see if you're hitting those key points.
and make sure you're highlighting the skills and experiences that are most relevant to the job you're after.
Tailor-made advice. It's awesome.
It's like having a secret weapon for your interview prep.
I love it.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into conquering that import-export manager interview in the chemical industry.
Remember, we've got RoleCatcher in our corner, and their AI is like having a personal coach guiding us through it.
We've covered so much ground already, from those technical questions about regulations and Incoterms
To those tricky behavioral questions about conflict resolution, leadership, the whole 9 yards.
Now let's tackle a question that tests your ability to think strategically about the future.
Ooh, I like this one. Looking ahead.
Imagine the interviewer asks, what are some emerging trends in the chemical industry, and how do those trends impact import-export operations?
This is where you get to show off that you're not just knowledgeable, but you're also forward-thinking.
You can anticipate and adapt to change.
It's about having your finger on the pulse of the industry.
So think about trends like the growing focus on sustainability,
The rise of digital technologies.
those shifting geopolitical landscapes,
The complex world out there.
and connect those trends to the import-export world.
Okay, make it relevant.
You could say something like the increasing demand for sustainable chemical products.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's driving the need for more transparency and traceability in those supply chains.
Gotta know where things are coming from.
As an import-export manager, I'd prioritize working with suppliers who adhere to strict environmental and social standards.
Absolutely. Ethical sourcing is crucial.
And I'd utilize technologies like blockchain to track the origin of those raw materials.
That's a great way to show you're tech-savvy and sustainability-minded.
It shows you're not just aware of the trends, you're thinking about their practical implications.
You're a problem solver.
Now let's imagine the interviewer asks you about your experience negotiating those international contracts.
Okay, time to show off those negotiation skills.
They might say, describe a time when you had to negotiate a complex contract with an international supplier. What were some of the key challenges? And how did you achieve a successful outcome?
All right, let's talk about deal-making.
This question is all about showcasing your negotiation skills, your cultural sensitivity, and your ability to handle those complex legal and financial terms.
International contracts, they can be tricky.
Choose an example that highlights your ability to build rapport, find common ground,
And reach an agreement that benefits both sides.
because those international negotiations often involve navigating those cultural differences in communication styles,
Decision-making processes.
even perceptions of time.
Time moves differently in different cultures.
Be prepared to discuss how you adapted your approach to those differences.
Okay, I'm thinking of an example.
You could say something like, in a previous role, I negotiated a contract with a supplier in Japan.
Ooh, interesting.
I knew that building trust and showing respect for their culture was absolutely essential.
It's all about that foundation.
So I took the time to learn about their business etiquette, their decision-making processes, and their communication preferences.
Do your homework.
This helped me build a strong rapport with the supplier
And that opens doors.
and ultimately negotiate a contract that was favorable for both sides.
That's a perfect example of how cultural sensitivity is key in those international negotiations.
Now let's shift gears to a question that's all about your problem-solving skills.
Okay, challenge accepted.
Describe a time when you had to deal with a product quality issue with an importing chemical shipment.
Right.
What steps did you take to resolve the problem?
Uh-oh. Quality control issues, nobody wants those.
This is where you show how you handle those tough situations, investigate problems.
And find solutions that protect your company and your customers.
So pick an example where you had to act quickly, decisively, to address a quality issue.
Think fast, move fast.
Explain how you identified the root cause,
Do your detective work.
how you communicated with the supplier, implemented those corrective actions.
And made sure those issues wouldn't happen again.
You could say, When a shipment of imported chemicals didn't meet our quality standards,
Red flag.
I immediately launched an investigation.
Get to the bottom of it.
I contacted the supplier to get more information about their production process.
Trace it back to the source.
And I worked with our quality control team to conduct more testing.
Leave no stone unturned.
We discovered a contamination issue at the supplier's facility.
Ah, so you found the culprit.
And I worked with them to implement corrective actions and prevent future issues.
Proactive approach.
We also quarantined the affected shipment and notified our customers
Damage control.
to minimize any potential risks.
That's a great example. You showed initiative, took responsibility.
And you collaborated with the supplier to address the problem effectively.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Now, let's imagine the interviewer asks you about your ability to manage those multiple projects
Okay, juggling act time.
and prioritize tasks like a pro.
Organization is key.
They could ask, describe a time when you had to juggle multiple import-export projects at the same time. How did you prioritize tasks, manage your time, and make sure all those deadlines were met?
This is where those organizational skills shine.
This question is all about assessing those organizational skills, your time management, and your ability to handle pressure.
And deliver on time.
Choose an example that highlights your ability to stay organized, prioritize effectively, and delegate tasks when needed.
Don't try to do it all yourself.
You could talk about the tools and strategies you use to stay on top of your workload.
Like those handy project management software,
To-do lists,
time blocking techniques.
whatever works for you.
And don't forget to emphasize the positive outcome.
How did you successfully complete those projects on time and within budget?
Results matter.
You could say, in my previous role, I was managing multiple import-export projects at the same time.
Sounds familiar.
To stay organized, I used a project management tool to track deadlines, assign tasks to my team, and keep tabs on our progress.
Smart move.
I also prioritized tasks based on their urgency and importance and delegated tasks effectively to make the most of my team's strengths.
Playing to everyone's strengths.
As a result, we consistently hit our deadlines and deliver those projects successfully.
That's what they want to hear.
Okay, before we wrap up our deep dive, let's take a moment to reflect on how RoleCatcher can help you prepare for these challenging questions.
Seriously, RoleCatcher's AI platform is a game changer for interview prep.
It's like having a personal coach in your corner, providing you with a massive library of sample interview questions and answers.
But it goes beyond that.
It analyzes your responses, gives you personalized feedback based on the specific job you're going for.
Tailored advice. It's amazing.
You upload the job description, your draft answers, and the AI pinpoints areas for improvement, suggests relevant keywords, and highlights the skills and experiences that matter most to that potential employer.
It's like having a secret weapon for your interview prep.
It really is.
So, are you ready to rock that interview?
I think so. You've got this. We've covered a ton of ground today, explored some tough questions, and you've got those strategies and RoleCatcher's AI on your side.
You're well equipped.
The chemical import-export world is dynamic and challenging.
But also incredibly rewarding.
With the right preparation, you can not only ace that interview, but launch a successful and fulfilling career.
And don't forget, it's not just about the technical stuff. Develop those people skills, that cultural sensitivity, your ethical compass.
Those are the things that set you apart.
Make you a valuable asset to any company.
So best of luck out there, and here's to a bright future in international trade.